Hello, Aftar.
Hello, Johanna.
What are you going to cook here today? Some Indian food, yeah?
Yeah, I'm actually going to make something that we call thorka, which is the base for a lot of Punjabi curries.
Right.
And what I've done is I always prepare my ingredients first.
Okay.
And chop everything up so that I can actually just get on and do it.
Okay, and what kind of ingredients do we have here then on the table?
For a basic thorka, what you need is 2 medium onions finely chopped.
Right.
You can either chop them by hand or use a food processor. With that you need a whole bulb of garlic, again, very, very finely chopped. You can either use a food processor, and what I tend to use is either one of these or one of these. I don't know where to get these anymore.
That looks like something your mum has handed down to you or something.
I think it's actually called a herb mincer.
Right,
So
and how does that work then? You put the stuff in there.
You just chop it up, the ginger up fairly coarsely.
Yeah.
Just put it through there and it just minces it up.
Right.
I prefer using this because I just prefer the texture.
So you've chopped up the ginger in that, and also the garlic.
And the garlic as well.
Garlic,
Yeah. So I use the same thing to do both of them.
Right.
With the bulb of garlic, once you've done that, you look at the quantity and you just want slightly less of the ginger. But once you get the hang of it, you can vary the ingredients according to how you like your curry.
Okay.
So I don't get too hung up on the quantities. I haven't measured this. So what I've done is just taken a bulb of garlic, looked at how much it was, once it's been minced, sort of judged how much I need for the ginger. And the chilies I do in the same way.
That's a green chilli.
Is
there any particular type of chilli?
Yeah, they're small green ones that you get from Indian shops. You can get them from any Indian shop.
Right.
And
that's 2 of those.
Yeah, 2 of those, again minced up, but again you can vary that to how hot or how mild you actually like your curry.
And it looks like you've got the seeds in there still.
Yeah, just throw the seeds in the whole lot, chop them up and use the little machine to actually do that.
Okay, and if you don't want to use your old-fashioned fabulous thing there, you just use something like that, a full processor.
Or you can just take a whole chilli and just slice it up finely. And just a tip here, you can actually freeze minced ginger and minced chilli, so these I actually would normally keep in the freezer. Okay. I also do the same with coriander as well, so I get fresh coriander and chop that up and put it in the freezer, so you can use it straight from the freezer. And the other ingredients is half a 15-ounce tin of tomatoes, and again you can vary the amount of tomatoes that you want to use in there. Next ingredient is the sort of herbs and spices. We start off the cooking with the onions is whole cumin seeds, or jeera as we call it. Teaspoon of this.
Right.
We also use ground turmeric, which actually gives it some flavour but also colouring as well. The vegetable oil to fry the onions in, a teaspoon of salt, or however much salt you want to put in, entirely up to you, and something that we're all familiar with is garam masala.
You say that like I would be familiar with it, which I wouldn't be.
I think a lot of British people are, but
okay.
My mum makes her own, so what I've got is some that my mum actually made for me, but you can buy this at any Indian shop.
Right.
Again, and again you can vary the amount that you put in for your own taste. That's pretty much...
So this is all you're going to use apart from the fresh coriander that you just mentioned?
Which is in the freezer.
Which is in the freezer. Yeah. So what do you start with now then?
Okay, what we start with doing is putting the vegetable oil. You just use 2 large tablespoons of oil.
Yeah, that's not a tablespoon though.
Sorry, this is I don't know what this is. This is a serving spoon.
That's like a ladle almost.
Yeah, a ladle full.
Yeah.
In the pan, it looks about that much. Now I think that's actually just a little bit. I think I need more than that.
Right.
So I'm just going to put a bit more in.
Okay. And you have quite a deep pan
there.
Yeah,
you can use a deep pan. It's got to be a wide one. You can use a wok.
Yeah.
If you don't have a wide pan. It needs to be large enough for you to be able to move things around.
Now the oil in the pan is hot, and it was quite a lot of oil you said.
Yeah.
So if you move that around, how much is it?
That's a couple of ladlefuls of oil.
Yeah, this type of ladle.
Yeah, and a heaped teaspoon of the cumin seeds.
Right, go in there.
Put those in, and they start sizzling away. The important thing here is not to burn them. So you just let them, they'll go slightly darker than they are, because at the moment they're sort of a caramel colour, and then they go sort of a rich dark So that's when you just leave those to fry a little bit.
Will they sort of pop, or will they smell, or will you kind of...
You can get the aroma from it, and it's just to...
Oh yeah, I'm starting to smell that now. Okay.
Now once they're sort of slightly golden brown, you throw in the onions, and this is where you need to be careful because it does spit.
Alright.
And I keep a wooden spoon aside to do curries with because the turmeric stains the wooden spoon.
Right, okay.
I don't know whether you can smell that.
I'm wafting towards the camera here.
Now with the onions, you can't let these stand. You've got to move them around all the time. And what we're aiming to do is to almost caramelise the onions. So you just basically fry them until they're a rich dark brown. But you do it slowly because you don't want to burn the onions. They've got to be evenly browned. Right.
So they should go really soft and kind of mushy almost, but and light brown.
Absolutely, and the key is don't burn them. And this will probably take you about 20 minutes. And this is continuous. This is the hardest part of doing, or the most tedious part of actually making a curry, is doing the onions.
Right, to get them to that mushy, nice.
And if I'm doing a vegetarian curry, I would use exactly the same kind of a base, but I wouldn't brown the onions as much.
Right.
So, but if you're doing a meat dish, you want it to be a lot richer, so you actually brown the onions a lot more.
So we'll just fry on here now for 20 minutes.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay. Right, so how long have you now been frying these onions?
Probably not that long, probably about 10 minutes.
You've had this on quite a high heat.
Yeah, and I've turned it down because I don't want to burn them. I've turned it, I mean, if you have a look at the flame now, that's what it was, and I've turned it down quite a lot.
Right.
But I still need the oil to be hot enough to darken the onions.
Yes.
And they're starting to darken. This is where you've got to be really, really careful. Now, at that point there, and they're golden brown now, what I'm going to do is put in the garlic.
Right. So the minced garlic goes in.
Minced garlic goes in. Now, the onions will continue to brown. Now, you do need to turn the gas down slightly because you don't want to burn the garlic. What you want to do is to brown the garlic. You just cook it really gently. Now, the thing about it, I've used a whole bulb of garlic, and you think to yourself, my God, that's going to stink. But actually, if you cook garlic properly and if you cook it slowly, A, it won't burn, and B, it won't smell.
Right.
So you can taste it, but it doesn't smell, because at the moment you can smell the garlic on it.
Yeah.
After a while, that'll sort of reduce.
So if you cook it really slowly, it will become really mellow and give flavour, but not that kind of...
Not the sharp,
stingy,
like raw,
sharp, tangy...
raw garlic has.
It's got a nice colour now.
Yeah. And like I said, the reason why you need a big pan is because you need to be able to move it around.
As you're doing, yeah.
So probably about 3-4 minutes with the garlic, and I just sort of check it every now and again and just make sure it's not burning. And the onions will continue to get darker. Now, if I was doing a vegetarian curry, that is about how dark I'd have them. But because I'm going to use this for a meat one, I'm going to continue to actually darken the onions. Okay.
To give it an even sort of deeper flavour.
A deeper flavour and a richer flavour and a richer colour as well. I'm just checking the garlic and making sure it's not burning. That's fine.
What if it was burning? Can you sort of quickly pull it off the...
Yeah, you have to, but the thing is, bearing in mind the pan's still going to be hot, but once you've burnt the garlic, it will be bitter, and it really is practice, and just take it easy. I mean, that's starting to darken quite a lot. Right, okay, I think I'm just going to turn that down just a little bit. Right, so the next step is, the order's not terribly important. Here goes the ginger, chilies, and the turmeric.
1 teaspoon?
Yeah.
Or 2?
Just
one heap?
Just heaps, yeah. And then start moving that round. And what you're going to do is the onions are still getting darker. You put the ginger and the chilies in, and what you're doing here is just very gently cooking everything together. And the turmeric actually goes darker when you cook it. You don't want to burn it because it will taste bitter. Right, at this point I've got to run and get the coriander from the freezer. Right, so we've got freshly chopped coriander, and that's straight from the freezer, which is why you can't leave it out because it goes mushy.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to bring that back up to cooking again. And what I'll do is I'll just put in, I just use my hand to do this. I mean, you probably want to be a bit more scientific about it. About a tablespoonful of salt.
A tablespoon?
Sorry, teaspoon.
Right.
Table and teaspoons, a bit mixed up. Right, just throw that in.
Okay, so salt. And then the fresh coriander straight from the freezer.
Right, do you know what? You can put in as much as you want of this. I mean, that is half a tub. That's probably a couple of tablespoons.
And of course, you could use just fresh coriander that you just chopped. It doesn't have to be from the freezer.
No, not at all. And then turn it right down. And tablespoon again. I'm sorry, what's it called? It's called a ladle.
Yeah, a ladle of some sort, or a serving spoon or whatever. I don't know.
Initially, what I'll do is I'll put 2 in, see how it looks. Still a bit thick, so I'm going to put some more in. In fact, what I'll do is just put some in. There's about four of those in there.
Right. And you would say that is about half a can of...
Half a can.
Half a
can. About half
a
can. We're almost done. And smells alright. And then the last thing to go in is either your homemade garam masala or one that you bought. This is my mum's.
So she gets all the individual spices and makes her own?
Yeah, she roasts the individual spices herself, and so that's just a heaped teaspoon. Thing about the garam masala is, again, when you put this in, you don't want to overcook this at this stage. You just let all of the flavours infuse into it. Now, what I'm going to do now is just turn it up a little bit and just let it cook a little bit. Now, if you wanted this a richer tomatoey sauce, what you can do is to put in some tomato puree.
Okay.
And it doesn't look like a lot there, but if you think about how concentrated the flavours are here, you can use this for meat, fish. I mean, I tend not to go for red meat, but you can use it for beef, lamb, pork, anything. Absolutely. Chicken.
Yeah. So if you were using this for, say, chicken, and how many people, if you use all of that, how many people could you make a curry for if you make the chicken curry?
Okay, if I was making chicken curry, I would probably put I could dice up 8 chicken breasts in this, put it in the pan with about half a pint of water, and it creates a really thick sauce, and then you can either have it with naan bread or with rice. Now,
and how many people would that serve?
That would be enough for probably 4 to 6 people. So you don't need a lot of this. It just doesn't look like a lot, but if you think about what you put in there, it's concentrated flavour effectively.
Yeah.
Now what it's doing, it's kind of sizzling away. I'm going to turn it down and just let it cook for a little bit longer. And what will start happening is at the moment it isn't happening, but can you see that as the oil starts coming out, At the moment it isn't coming out. At the moment it's just bubbling away underneath, but as the oil sort of drains out, then you turn it off.
Right, so what do you mean, that when you can't really see the oil anymore?
Can
or
you
when
see the oil coming out underneath?
Yeah, the bubbles.
Yeah, it's not started coming out yet.
Oh, right, okay.
But what you do is you just leave it as it is, and it'll start sort of coming out. So I'd probably say another minute or so. So
Right.
you can see it's starting to come out
Yeah,
from
so
underneath.
it should be sort of a bit oily around the edges there
Yeah.
between the pan and the actual sauce. Is this a sauce? What do you call this?
Well, we call it thorka, but it does effectively form a sauce, because if you put water into this with the chicken, it does it produces the sauce. And you can also use this for what they call keema, which is minced pork.
All right. So it's effectively a paste that you kind of a concentrated paste
Absolutely.
to become.
You see the oil starting to come out. Right, and I'm just going to turn that off now. It's ready.
Wow.
I mean, the colour's brilliant. Colour's spot
Yeah, it
on.
looks very nice.
And then what I do is just try it.
Have a little taste.
Yeah.
Will be really hot now.
Spot on.
You're happy with that?
Very.
Okay.
Very.
Great. You can now use this for meat, chicken, fish, and that you mentioned the other day some cheese. What's that called?
Paneer.
Indian cheese. Paneer.
Paneer is kind of like
It's almost like tofu or something.
tofu. Yeah. It's made from milk and it's just compressed. What they tend to do is to use whole milk and put in vinegar. Sorry, not vinegar. Lemon juice. And the milk curdles, and then you just strain it out and you use that.
Right.
And you can either compress it. Put a plate on it and compress it, and it turns into almost like a hard, soft cheese. Or you can just use it and it almost turns like scrambled eggs. My mum, when we were kids, used to do eggs, so we used to have an egg curry. But all she did was crack the eggs into a pan, throw some of this in with some peas, and as it cooked, the eggs just scrambled, but you've got curried scrambled eggs. Okay.
All right. Thanks very much.
Pleasure.
Thank you.